So, a couple podcasts ago, I talked about a very special book that's about to come out. And that book is Exploring Azeroth, Pandaria. The latest entry in the Exploring Azeroth novels. Thus far, we have one on the Eastern Kingdoms. We have one on Kalimdor. We have one on Northrend. And now Pandaria. And you might be like, hell yeah, this is great. Incredible. However, I am not of that mindset. I am not of that mindset with these books. Why? Well, like I said during that one podcast, I do not see the point to these books. I don't know the point to them. You know? Like, I understand wanting a book about detailing certain continents and certain places in the world, but, well, that's kind of what the Chronicle books were supposed to be. Now, Exploring Azeroth is all about going from continent to continent, from zone to zone, and kind of like almost recapping it in a sort of way. However, these books were advertised as essentially like exploring Azeroth as it is right now, as of Shadowlands, as of right after the Fourth War, as of Dragonflight. But then they go in these books and they just summarize and recap zones or different storylines that kind of happened, and they don't add anything more. All they do is recap it. And that's fine, but that's not what these books are advertised as. Because they don't update the world. They simply summarize things that we already know. Now, there are people who don't know this information. Like, for example, a new player. Okay? And I think these books would be pretty good for if you were a new player, right? Like, if you're new, okay, what's going to happen? Well, you're going to buy the game. You're going to get a sub. You're going to go make a character. You're going to go into Exile's Reach because you got a brand new account. You're going to see this island. You're going to be like, whoa, this shit's cool. And then you leave the island. And then you go to either Orgrimmar and Stormwind. And then you open up the map. And you see these big-ass fucking continents. And you're like, oh my god, oh my god, I have missed so much. Like, there's so much shit here. Like, where do I even begin? That's where these books come in, you know? Like Exploring Azeroth. If you want to know about the Eastern Kingdoms as it stands currently, well, then this would be a good book for you to pick up. You know? And I will not take that away from these books. That is a very good idea. That being said, I'm gonna put up the picture, and you're gonna know exactly what I'm talking about as soon as I put it up. Then you got books like this, Exploring Azeroth, Kalimdor. Now, if you're familiar with this book, you know that there is a lot of problems with it. There are egregious problems, but one of the most egregious problems is that the information that it gives you is wrong. It gives you the wrong lore. It gives you wrong information. For example, right here, I have a tweet from Belluar. It mentions in the Kalimdor book that the Dark Portal was active during the War of the Ancients. And that this during the War of the Ancients, the mages used the Arcane Stone, the Sarsen Stone, to redirect veins of magical energy called ley lines. They were trying to draw energy away from the Dark Portal, which the Burning Legion was using to invade Azeroth. This is just flat out fucking incorrect. And anybody who knows their shit, anybody who has picked up the book in-game, would know this is wrong, because we know that the War of the Ancients was caused by the Legion coming through the Well of Eternity. And that the whole point was the Well of Eternity. That the war ended with the Well of Eternity fucking exploding and splitting the world up. There was no Dark Portal yet. The Dark Portal was conceived by Medivh and Gul'dan under the influence and orders of Sargeras and the Burning Legion to bring the orcs from Draenor to Azeroth to cause the First War. That's why the Dark Portal exists. But this book states otherwise. This is official material, and it's wrong. There's a problem with that, because not only are you not giving us an update to the world, you are simply recapping it, but you're recapping it incorrectly. And look, these books, the Exploring Azeroth books, they're obviously supposed to be the spiritual successor to the Chronicle books that I mentioned earlier. Now, the Chronicle books, they also recapped a lot of events of WoW, but for whatever reason, they were then made non-canon. Why were they made non-canon? Well, I did an entire video on this. If you're on YouTube, you can go watch that right here. But if you're here, I did a video on the biggest problem with Shadowlands, and the biggest problem with Shadowlands is the fact that it retcons the Chronicle books. That Blizzard and that dev team that made it, the current one, actively removed those books despite those being the Word of God, right? Those were the books that they could be like, I forgot, let me pull out the Chronicle, let me flip to page 10 and see what happened to Arthas after he picked up Frostmourne. You know? Like, that was the point of those books. But now that's all non-canon, and it's mainly non-canon because of the fucking jailer and all the other weird shit that they're trying to do. And it screams to me, after they retcon the Chronicle books, and after they've kind of almost flat out refused to let these books shine in the way that they're supposed to shine, that Blizzard is still, to this day, scared of commitment. They're scared of committing to lore. They don't want to commit to anything because, well, what if we do go back to the Eastern Kingdoms? And they have to look through this book and they're like, well, I don't actually like what we've written here. Let's change it. They don't want to have that problem again. Which is fine, but then don't make these fucking books. then don't do them. Or simply advertise them as a, okay, here is an update for every zone, kind of what's happening. And that's that. You know what I mean? Now, it could be different for Pandaria, because this book is not out yet. I think this book's going to be released in, like, October. But still, like, I don't expect this book to be any different from this one, or the Northrend one, which I don't have open. Now, I will say, there is actually some pretty alright information in these books. There is pretty okay info. But it's hit or miss. And that's kind of the problem. You know, for some zones, it's very clear that, like, the zones and the factions, they have an idea for it. But then other things, they're like, I don't know. So it really displays, like, this sense of, like, they're not really sure, but, like, they're trying to get it out anyways because they haven't really thought it all the way through yet. Like, for example, the Argent Crusade and the Silver Hand in the Exploring Azeroth Eastern Kingdoms book, they're like going full Brotherhood of Steel from Fallout. And the Brotherhood of Steel, basically, like, what they do is they go around and they, like, collect dangerous ass, like, old world technology to make sure that, like one faction or one group can't cause the problems that ended the old world, essentially, you know. Like they just go around and they collect tech. They don't use the tech, they just collect it to protect it, to keep it safe. That's exactly what the Argent Crusade and the Silver Hand are currently doing, except with magical artifacts. Which is pretty badass. But then there's like one thing, two other things, and then that's it. It would have been much simpler to have fucking, like, Maxwell Tyrosis show up again on the Dragon Isles and be like, hey, what's up? This is what we've been doing. Bye. You know what I mean?